Hello, everyone. I'd like to personally thank each and every one of you for taking the time to listen to my statement. These past few months of my life, I've had the opportunity to spend substantial amounts of time engaging in introspection and reflecting on how I can become a better person. Needless to say, one of the most challenging aspects of this process has been not having the ability to properly respond over the past year. But oddly enough, as mentally and emotionally taxing as this process has been, it's also been both humbling and valuable in that it has given me time to reflect on ways I could have treated people better and in ways I could have managed the circumstances of situations far more responsibly. I've learned many things about who I am as a person when things get difficult, and this has been no question the hardest period of my entire life. I not only owe allegiance to the women in this situation, but also feel a clear and unabiding loyalty to the community and my supporters. They too deserve to know the entire truth about what took place that led a young lady being ostracized and bullied, leading to patently false claims being made against me following nebulous, intimate interactions. It is crucial for there to be a fact and clarity shared in response to one-sided and distorted versions of events. Without question, the response from the community regarding this and other accusations is commendable, and it should be the standard for when situations like these occur. On the receiving end, it has been incredibly difficult to be put into a position where the receipt of any kind of sympathy or empathy is next to impossible, and attempts suggesting the contrary are met with ridicule. I can admit, had the facts of the matter been different and I was not the subject of the antagonization, then I would have celebrated the community for their swift response to defend a victim. So out of respect for everyone involved, I have maintained my silence for thoughtful reflection. While the accusations against me and how have been represented are factually false and come from a place of hurt individuals, in this period I've also concluded that I have fallen short of my own expectations. I have become acutely aware of my own failure in participating in a fast-living lifestyle that came with some of my new community celebrity status, which placed myself in harm's way. Furthermore, I have learned the dangers of irresponsible alcohol consumption and failure in proper communication, which as a result led someone to receive ridicule within an otherwise very accepting community. That is a pain that I now know I cannot take away from this person, and therefore understand why they therefore sought to tarnish my name in the way that they did. While I am humbled by the pain I have caused, I found it imperative that I properly account for the reality of these events that have brought pain upon many, myself included. Therefore, throughout this past year, I have done my due diligence in accumulating evidence to prove that who I have been presented as is not who I was. I have collected various screenshots, emails, secondhand accounts, and other miscellaneous information to provide more context and clarification where there was none previously. My hope through this is to very openly share all the details of which I had been silent. However, in no way should this be considered a condemnation of the individuals who in a state of pain lodged these claims against me. To follow, I have included a timeline of the events which have unfolded out of a sense of duty to offer complete transparency and hopefully set the record straight. Open letter to KT. To KT, what happened to you after the event of Smash the Record 2016 was horrible and something that no one should have to go through as a response to something out of your control. If all it took was me stepping up to quell any harassment towards you, I understand now that I did not do that. I regret it and I'm deeply sorry. There's a point in the middle of your statement that is as follows. Quote, OD1, I would have let it go had this not been the case. This makes it very clear that what this is all about is bullying that you received that you believe was started through malicious rumors formulated by me. She says, I get back to the room, Clyde and MVD are there asleep. I showered, took a nap, and changed. Now we're on to the next day of the tournament, When I walk into the venue the next day, people all of a sudden won't look at me. They're snickering and laughing and whispering. Obviously about me. You bragged. You told everyone that we effed and that I was disgusting and vomited all over you. And I was some kind of cheap whore that got passed around the community. I never consented to one thing with you, and you made me out to be some kind of gross teenager. I had just turned 18. Any rational human being looking at your response to what had happened can understand that because of the rumors and subsequent harassment that you endured, you felt isolated and embarrassed. You felt that no one could relate to you, no one could sympathize with you, and no one showed you any empathy for you, and instead many resorted to a form of bullying, something this community is built around defending against. I understand that the route you took and calling me an assailant was your way of trying to divert that pain and redirect it toward myself, whom at the moment you felt responsible for that ridicule within the insular community. I can relate to you as over the last couple months, I have often felt scared and embarrassed myself. While it is unfortunate that you felt the need to go about it in this way, it is understandable that you concluded that the only possible way that these events depicting you in a bad light had come out through me, and that I did that with malicious intent. I can assure you this was not the case. It was an unfortunate incident of poor judgment, harmful gossip, stereotyping, and my own weakness to not jump to your defense. For this, I am truly sorry. Through the personal accounts of others, KT's written statement, and myself, the sequence of events that occurred were as follows. Friday, November 11th, 2016. The week leading up to STR 2016 was just like any other when preparing for a tournament that I would be commentating in. We were coming off the heels of the 2016 election, and due to my own personal feelings on the outcome, I had decided that for that weekend I was going to relax and enjoy all of the social events to fully take my mind off the matter and enjoy some time with my friends within the community. That Friday night, the first day of the event, I'd hosted a small gathering in my room for all members of the community to come and hang out. During this get-together, my door was wide open and many community members were in and out. People were loud and it was a fun time. Night of the party, Saturday, November 12th, 2016. That night, after my obligations were complete, there was a small semi-official gathering in the hotel room. While security was employed, alcohol was provided by event members and checks on age were essentially non-existent. I had met KT for the first time that night, and this wasn't a situation where I had approached her when she was already drunk and swept her away. Her statement says as much. She says, I went to a party accompanied by Jesse, better known as MVD. He was my hotel mate, along with my friend Haley and my friend Clyde. Many other people I knew in the community were there at that party in that hotel ballroom. Everyone 9 shades of the wind from drinking, dancing, having an amazing time. As I was. MVD always kept a very close eye on me and was always so protective of me. I was very drunk. End quote. There was an initial introduction and we started dancing soon after. This went on for about an hour to an hour and a half, and during this period we were getting relatively intimate and things began to escalate. So while inebriated and against our better judgment, we decided to make our way back to my hotel room. There are several accounts that recall her leaving willingly, including employees of the hotel. On our way out, we interacted with a security guard whose account can be found below for those interested. Here the security guard provides a picture of himself, his initial reaction upon the discovery of the claims made against me, his personal interpretation of the interactions between myself and KT, his reaction to those who responded to his statement, and the experience of his now wife who was working at the front desk at the conference of the hotel. DMs from him to a close friend who wishes to remain anonymous, and legal confirmation from the HR department of the security guard's wife, who he names in his Twitter post, Twitter replies rather, Erin, her job as the front desk clerk who was working at the Flamingo Water Park Resort in Kissimmee, Florida, as stated that weekend, which supports his testimony. In the security guard's account, she was stopped by one of her friends and asked if this was something that she wanted to do, and the response from her was, I'm 18 now. I feel like I can make my own decisions. After that, we left, and we were seen moving out of the ballroom and down the hallway. In his account by a non-privy third party, we're getting very physical with each other, and it was clear where the night was headed. The morning after, Sunday, November 13th, 2016. I awoke later that afternoon to her gone in the bathroom of my room in an unfortunate shape. What I did was contact the front desk and requested a cleaning crew to assist me in organizing what had happened. This process took essentially all morning into the afternoon. Additional help did not arrive until around 2:30 p.m., 2:33 to be exact. During this time, and due to the nature of the event being around the clock, many members of the community were going in and out of hotel commons. To expound, they were in and out of the hotel through the main central area, throughout the morning and into the afternoon. My room door was wide open, highly visible, and many workers, 5 exactly, were also in and out. I did not arrive at the venue until the evening to complete my commitments to the event. With all things considered, and with all the factors present, I do believe that the most likely scenario for the burgeoning rumors was a combination of my room being public knowledge during the event, anyone present in my room or walking around the hotel at any point during that Friday gathering, knowing where my room was due to it being on the ground level, us leaving the party together in an obvious fashion that Saturday evening, anyone present that Saturday who saw us leave together. There was only one entrance in and out of the ballroom. The aftermath of a cleaning crew entering and exiting my room on Sunday, and anyone going in and out of their hotel rooms coming from the venue 24/7 that Sunday afternoon, and seeing the cleanup crew. It is truly unfortunate that this happened, but due to the room situation, I was indisposed of, if not all of the day. And by KT's account, when she got to the venue earlier that day, there were already rumors. With this time frame considered, it would have been at best highly unlikely for me to have been the one to start these rumors. At worst, nearly impossible. Where I fell short. 2 weeks later, rumors were brought to my attention regarding MVD and possible hurt feelings. I approached MVD first to figure out what the problem was and what I can do to rectify it. At this point, I still did not know KT personally, so I felt the best way to figure this all out was to ask him directly, due to the conversations being centered around him being in a close relationship with KT, who, now I know, felt I had caused her reputation to be damaged. Because of our friendship, I thought it was the right thing to do. At first, it seemed as if everything was copacetic between us. For transparency, I'm only naming them in an effort to show transparency that I did indeed reach out to get a better understanding of the situation and to find a solution, as there are numerous accounts online saying that I didn't. I'm not inciting a witch hunt, nor am I trying to start any unnecessary drama regardless of how they view me as an individual. A year later, I heard rumors circulate around negative reactions to my commentary. The source of the comments were from Esam, who in a now deleted tweet expressed dissatisfaction in commentary alluding to me. Hoping again to rectify the issue, I approached him to try to understand his perspective. Due to the vagueness with which these things were communicated to me by third parties, I was fearful of how I would be perceived, not realizing at the time that KT had already felt the outcome of that same fear by the community. At that time, I understood that if this were to come to light, I would not be seen favorably as the veteran community leader and also older person in the dynamic. So in an effort to save my career, I felt I had to do my best and give an apology. And she states, so I got a forced, half-ass apology, and we smiled and went on with life. End quote. She wanted me to apologize for the rumors. I apologized with the idea that it was about sleeping with her. I realize now that this is where the disconnect was and why she did not think it was good enough. While I do not think the way I was framed as being in opposition to any kind of apology and painted as outright dismissive was wholly appropriate, I now realize that the best course of action at that time was just to go to her directly. The sequence of events that occurred after that night that led to KT's harassment and ostracization from the community is something that I should take responsibility for. The D1 presented in her statement is someone who ridiculed her for a medical episode that she could not control and attempted to skirt by without an apology or even an acknowledgement. If I was truly this person, this approach for closure, for revenge, is understandable. However, I'm not this person, and I hope through this account, with the information provided, that was made clear. These statements, following up, have Dasha and anonymous accounts were made after the initial accusation by KT. In retrospect, I understand these were made in a reactionary way, by recollecting previously nebulous interactions between the persons and myself. In addition to a claim promoting that I was a terrible person, these were created with the goal of holding me accountable. I do not wish to promote repudiation of these accounts, but hope to provide clarity of how they actually occurred in their respective instances. Dasha, Paragon 2015. Dasha is a person that I've been friends with for many years. The above image is a result of her taking one of my shirts from my room at an event in January 2015 and sending me a selfie of her wearing said shirt. Most of my relationship with Dasha was like a mentorship to help her along her path to becoming a successful content creator. She always picked my brain for assistance with many different things, and as a friend of hers, along with the wealth of knowledge I have in gaming, I was willing to help her in any way I can. Her statement was made as a recollection of events that marred her image of our overall friendship. My statement is meant to refute any inaccuracies in her testimony. She quotes, D1 would get touchier and more flirtatious, end quote. Dasha alleged that I grew more flirtatious and touchy as our friendship grew. She showed constant interest on many occasions, even in front of onlookers. These screenshots are proof of our constant contact, without any evidence of me crossing boundaries. I was in the scene to compete, to win, to become a top player. I had no interest in dating or doing anything with anyone. I'd go to about 5 to 10 events a year. D1 would get touchier and touchier with each event, and I'd begin to reject them, end quote. We've partied at numerous events together, and if she ever showed signs of discomfort with people, I would always address it. We have cuddled in the past, and she has even kissed me in public at an EVO after party, alongside other smashers on the dance floor. At an EVO after party, she has also unbuttoned my shirt in front of everyone, and I asked for assistance from a friend who provided a testimony. She has mentioned how she never wanted to date or get in a relationship, but I have evidence of her asking me to be in a relationship, and I made sure not to lie to her and tell her the straight truth. Then came around Pentagon in California. D1 was going a day early and suggested I could stay with him at his room. In the year 2015, she claimed that I insisted that she stay in the same room as me in September at a Smash Bros event named Paragon LA. I have text proof of me letting her know that I was against this and why. During the weekend, she decided to come to my room anyway and asked me why I didn't want a serious relationship with her. In an attempt to get her to leave, I announced that I was going to disrobe and sleep. Instead of taking the hint, she decided to sleep in the same bed as me, regardless of the awkward conversation we had prior. I mentioned that due to my busy life, I couldn't promise a monogamous relationship at the time. She didn't take too kindly to the response, but I wanted to sleep. While sleeping on the edge of my own bed and in my own room, she mentions that I turned towards her in bed and I soon then turned away from her and went back to my position. Later on, after making her twit longer, she made mention that I never tried to force myself on her, which doesn't align with her initial story. Quote, however, after that night, D1 acted completely different towards me. He started to ignore me and was completely cold to me. Why? All because I didn't sleep with him? I thought we were friends. I was so hurt from this instance, but looking back, it's emotional manipulation. She asserted that ever since we've had a strained relationship and that she missed having me as a close friend. I legitimately reached out to her once I noticed signs that she was uncomfortable. What mattered most to me was that she was uncomfortable that one time, so I attempted to nip it in the bud and do whatever I could to prove to her that I see her as a real friend. Regardless of that fact, I respected how she felt and made sure to validate her feelings and apologize. I have evidence of me making sure to clear the air with her immediately, and I've done follow-ups just to make sure. Moving forward, she reached out for job recommendations and other tips with regard to content creation. I listened to all of her requests and maintained the appropriate boundaries that friends would have. She thanked me again and was happy that I talked things over with her at YumaCon out of respect for her feelings and to keep the friendship going. Here's another account from Dasha Genesis. Genesis 2017, I will never forget this. There was a room full of top commentators, including D1. All of these men were all over one girl, who was obviously very drunk. I accidentally stumbled by, but I was shocked. They then tried to get her into the bathroom and close the door behind them, all of them together. I tried my best to speak out against it, but I was kicked out. At Genesis in 2017, she alleged that I tried to trap a drunk girl in a bathroom with 2 other smashers. After this statement, the same girl made mention that one of the alleged Smash players kept her safe that entire weekend. There was no harm inflicted on that girl, and it seems like Dasha had a wrong interpretation of what she saw. The girl in question claims she felt uncomfortable around one person who has since cleared his name. Out of all the allegations levied against me, this one surprised me the most, knowing that we've had years of rapport built up between us. She continued to ask why I wasn't interested in a serious relationship with her. This escalated at Paragon 2015, where she had her own room, and I never coerced her to come to mine, but she decided to go regardless. I tried to let her know the reasons why I wasn't willing to reciprocate her feelings, but she continued to push. Once I realized that my delivery wasn't the best that weekend, I made it my mission to patch up things immediately. She has said on numerous occasions that everything was fine between us, and I already showed accountability privately for past actions years ago. But she wanted to publicly shame me, even after we squashed everything. I still don't know why this was done and why in this way, but I hope I provided the additional context to paint me in a better light. The final account here is, this is not a final account at all. This is Anonymous 2015, apologies. This account was published by proxy by a community member at 10:58 a.m. on July 4th, 2020. The tweet summarized the interaction in question as me buying her drinks on her 18th birthday and coercing her into intimate relations. The Twitter messages included in the tweet expound upon this summary, presented with no additional evidence provided other than this statement. This was a misrepresentation of the reality of the event and the events that preceded. As a stipulation in the release of the original account, the individual requested to remain anonymous, and I will continue to respect their wish. My own experience with these events differs greatly from hers. While some of her statements can be directly countered using messages we've exchanged, a significant amount requires the benefit of the doubt. Which I understand is a large ask, but at this point, I hope that my commitment to transparency and clarity is sufficient. I'll now do my best with the evidence provided to provide additional context and explain where I had been misrepresented. D1 promised me that he would buy me drinks. End quote. After revealing she was 19, I expressed that drinks were not a good idea and that I would not be supplying them. I will concede here the responsible decision in this scenario was to rescind the invitation that was extended outright and take an active role in discouraging this particular community member who was of age from inviting someone who was not of drinking age to a bar. Quote, asking me if I wanted to come back to his room, end quote. I mentioned that I was heading back to my room to retrieve an item with the intention to return to the group later, and she elected to come along with me. I never incentivized her to come to my room against her will. She voluntarily made that decision on her own. And while we were there, we had a conversation about her experience being a woman in the FGC. I fully intended to have this conversation without an ulterior motive, as I've had with numerous community members in the past. I've assisted community members in gathering case studies to assist with learning how to quell sexism towards women in not only our community, but other esports scene worldwide in 2014 and beyond. He then coerced me into having intimate relations with him, she says. As I'm sitting in my chair away from my bed and near one of the corners of the room adjacent from the window, she walks towards me and sits in my lap. From there, she got rather aggressive, and things escalated from there. He then told me that I should just leave. Pro-ho. Her statement makes it look as if I kicked her out of my room immediately when this wasn't the case. After some time had passed, while we were talking and motioning to leave the room, I recommended that she leave before me to avoid being labeled as such by community members that might be in the hallway. From my perspective, it seemed I was operating on the side of caution. However, I now realize the negative impact of even mentioning the term, even if there were good intentions. She says, I took full blame for this situation for years and tried to be cool with him. The following Sunday, she was not present, which is usually the most highly anticipated finals day during the tournament weekend. In making the effort to ensure she did not feel our interaction was bad or that she was at some kind of fault, she reassures clearly here that she had a good time and I made her weekend better. Through subsequent messages, she expresses interest in me intimately and additionally refers to me as a booty call and again reassures me that there was no issue. Our conversations continued into 2016 and beyond, extending into the creation of a new Facebook account in which she was the one to add me. I never fully consented to that situation at all. I fully understand the intent this statement holds. I understand that consent is binary. It can be allowed and rescinded at any point. And in this case, after many years, it was partially rescinded on her part. With my perspective added, I hope it is clear and proven that retroactively faulting me for this interaction to paint me in a bad light was purposefully ill-intentioned. At the time of the encounter, the onus was on me as the older individual and community leader in that dynamic to ensure I never sent over the request of another community member to invite her up with the group at the bar. It was also my poor decision making at the moment to reciprocate her advances, and I do take responsibility for that. Anonymous 2016. This final allegation was made on July 2nd, published by proxy from a Twitter account that has since become private and wishes to remain anonymous. The allegations details an account from the individual who also wishes to remain anonymous and has since announced her choice to distance herself from all aspects regarding her account and retract her statement. I'll be refraining from revealing their identities and readdressing the situation minimally in this statement with respect to them both. As a point of reference, the first statement, STR weekend. As mentioned earlier in the first statement, that Friday, November 11th, a lot of community members came over to hang in my room. I and the individual in question were introduced by a community member that evening, along with numerous other locals from the event. Once the party started to wind down, everyone went their separate ways, including her. I woke up the next morning to fulfill my commentary duties promptly. Later on that Saturday, November 12th, there was a smaller hangout that led to everyone congregating in the ballroom as per request of the security guard. And on Sunday, November 13th, after being indisposed most of the day, the hotel personnel cleaned my room. I went to the venue to wrap up any commitments left that evening. I've concluded that the reason she made this account and named the specific persons that she did is due to knowing that we had status in the community beforehand. She knew that involving me would get the best possible traction for her statement, in combination with the nebulous nature of her own missteps in her own separate situation and the current negative perception around me. I believe she felt this was her best option. Closing statement. As a world-renowned esports commentator for many years, it has been my job to address topics and start conversations around them. Last year, when presented with the opportunity to show growth, I didn't handle topics with the sensitivity that they deserved. In hindsight, I realize now that my words and power can potentially create an environment that may subject people to ridicule, leaving them feeling hopeless with no other options. Now that I have had the opportunity to really think about my past options, I have come to many realizations about the situations I was involved in and the person I was during them. I failed in being a leader within the community to protect and shield, especially someone who was receiving ridicule. I failed by showing ignorance with regard to power imbalances existing in not only the community, but all aspects of my life. I failed by not showing moderation with regard to alcohol consumption. I'm continuing to take the necessary steps to improve myself with therapy and other proper outlets, which isn't something that can be fixed within a year. It's not easy coming to terms with the effects of your decisions and additionally having them broadcasted publicly, but it has allowed me to understand the person I was, and the position I took for granted. After a year's worth of introspection, with the aid of professionals, their family, and close friends, I'm fully committed to being the better person I know I can be moving forward. Once again, I thank you all for taking the time to listen to my statement. Sincerely, D1.